This is my review of the movie Prey. I just finished watching it a couple of minutes ago, and I have to say that I actually thoroughly enjoyed it. It's not what kind I expected. As you can see, it's a Hulu original movie, and if you've got Disney Plus, you can actually watch it on there. This came out a couple of days ago, so you can find it on there. So you've seen it in cinema. As you can see there, it says a fierce and skilled warrior hunts a alien predator with a technological advanced weapons. Now, obviously, just judging by the title, you'll be sitting there. The actual italics of the word prey look very familiar, and that would be because this is actually a predator film. Even though, but just by looking at the title of it, you wouldn't even think it was it. Now this, I'm not sure. I think that there's been, in total, not including this, I think there's been 4 Predator films, and most people are aware of the first Predator film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, being the actual classic movie with the classic, obviously, Arnie one-liners. A lot of people didn't like Predator 2, but I actually liked the actual movie. I mean, nothing kind of beats the original movie with Arnie, and then since then there've been, I think the third one was called Predators, which I actually didn't mind. And then the last one that came out in the cinema was, I think it was called The Predator. I think that was I think maybe in I don't know what year that particular movie came in. But what my overall thoughts, I would say about this movie, I would say that it's definitely the best movie since the first movie, and then there's a lot of beats in it that are similar, but not to a point where you would sit there and think that it's trying to copy it or it's trying to pay homage to it. In some ways, you could argue that it actually sets up the storyline, but certain actions that happen in this one that then happened obviously in the first Predator film with Arnold Schwarzenegger. This film, I'm trying to check out who directed the movie, because I've never actually heard of the actual person, well, the actual guy. So I want to make sure I get my facts straight. Obviously, the Predator franchise was by Jim Thomas and John Thomas. So I'll assume that they're brothers. And the film was directed by Dan Trachtenberg, and the story was written by Patrick Eisen. So obviously this film came out this year. Obviously there's going to be, as far as I know, no cinema release. Trying to think of a way of not actually spoiling it. The basic storyline is that obviously that this movie, unlike the other ones, are usually set in the modern times. Now this movie, what you could argue is I suppose you could look at it as being a prequel, because it's set, I don't know what year it would be, but basically the story's focused on a Native American Comanche tribe, and the actual story goes that that there's a young Comanche woman that is training to be a healer, but she dreams of being a warrior like her brother, and the rest of the tribe obviously don't understand why she's so persistent in wanting to be a hunter, and it's more so to do with the fact that without giving away too much, that that people kind of believe that she's not capable of it, which makes her more determined to want to prove herself as a warrior. And then obviously being just a healer, obviously they don't sit there and think she's kind of ready. and then she sees something, but then something that's very kind of unusual, and I suppose I'll let you work out what that is. And some animals are killed off, and then obviously they simply think that it's a lion that's on the loose that's killing everybody, but we all know that it's something far more dangerous, something far more unhuman that's on the loose. And obviously the usual trope that nobody believes her as to what's kind of as to what's kind of going on. And then obviously it's a battle of wits in trying to defeat the predator, who we know has got all sorts of goodies and all sorts of technological advanced weaponry, whereas obviously the Native Americans probably will have their tomahawks, bows and arrows and traps that they make. And what was really great about this movie is that you could clearly tell that with a lot of big Hollywood blockbuster movie franchises, that, let's say for example, the newer Terminator films, not so much the first Terminator film, because obviously that was made on a smaller budget, but a lot of the mistakes, what I find with the big Hollywood movies, is that they seem to think, well, you know what, we'll sit there, make a big budget blockbuster movie, which I understand because you want to see lots of explosions and big special effects, and everything's on a grand scale when you have a movie on a big budget. And often that I found with big budget movies is they look good, but they're lacking in substance with the story or with the character, and it seems to be there's no balance. It seems to be more special effects driven, but then no character development and no story kind of development. It's just trying to sit there with big fancy explosions, and that's all well and good, but you need something to stimulate the grey matter. Now, I don't know the budget of this particular movie, but for me it did seem like a smaller budget movie, which I found if you go out and see this movie, which I highly recommend you do, I think the movie really works on several levels. One is that it seems to be on a much smaller scale. So then, with having a smaller scale, you then have to focus more on story, and then more on character kind of development. So you're not fully focused on special effects. Another thing that's good in the movie is that they're not using the typical kind of dual, a muscular dual superhero kind of a main character. What's really kind of good about this, and I suppose that some of the right-wing YouTubers won't like this, is that for a start it's a female lead, but what's different about this female character is they haven't made just because she's a woman that she is a woman. They haven't made the character well, the only nearest comparison I can say is the character in the new Star Wars films, where the character obviously is all of a sudden goes from 0 to 60 in being a Jedi, whereas the Luke character had to earn to be a Jedi Knight. And what's really great about her character is, although she kind of doesn't believe in herself and the people don't believe in her, she has a sense. She has intelligence. She believes in herself even when people kind of don't believe in her. And they haven't made the character into an SJW, like type of a character, or some writing people have said will may accuse the character of being woke, which I don't believe she is, because when you see her character from the beginning, the middle, and the end, you actually see the growth of the character, where obviously with what's happened with the Predator, and there's some other elements that happen in the movie where she has to learn. She learns and sees things for herself, or some things that she does learn of other people, and she's able to take these elements in taking the fight to the Predator. And then they also don't make it easy for her to defeat the actual Predator. She has to kind of work for it to kind of get it, and so it makes her into a really, really strong character. The nearest character development I would say in which her character is like, even though again it's a different movie franchise, I would say is Ellen Ripley from the Aliens movies. That's the nearest comparison that I can say with her character. Another good element is that the characters in it are mostly Native American characters, which I think is actually a really good thing, because we don't, very rarely do we see people of color or Native Americans being put in a positive light. Most of the time that we see them put in a negative light, in a sense of obviously the cowboys and Indians, and then being shot by the cowboys, and then they're portrayed as being the bad guys. And in this movie, what was great is that you see them in a positive light, and then on top of that, all the actors are actually Native American actors, which again is a good thing, because back in the day, in Hollywood, obviously they would get put somebody that was white in makeup to be Native American or whatever race, or Chinese, and it's just nice to see that they actually used the proper race of people to portray the characters in this actual movie, and then being shown in a positive light. Now, when it comes to special effects, obviously there are some, because obviously you're going to see it with the aliens. There's a lot of good stunts in the actual movie. I would even say that the cinematography in the actual movie I think it's kind of well done. I mean, I'm not an expert when it comes to lighting and camera work, but the movie does look really beautiful and really detailed. And I don't know if there is a 4K version of this available on the actual streaming service. So I would say that if there is, and you have a 4K TV, I would say recommend watching that. I don't have a 4K TV yet, but I'm hoping to get one in the future. But I would say, all in all, I would say it's a very, very good story. Not what I was expecting, because I did hear about that they were going to make another Predator film, and I pretty much didn't take any notes of it. I thought to myself, oh, here we go again. They're going to make another Predator film, and yeah, you're going to get good action, but again, no story or no substance. And then this kind of flew under the actual radar. And I saw pictures of it online here and there, but I didn't know much of what was kind of going on. And it's only when obviously the movies come out, and then people have been raving about it and said how good it is, and saying it that it's nearly as good as the first Predator. So I thought to myself, you know what, right? I'm not sure about that, because sometimes people like to over hype a movie, and then when you actually watch it yourself, it isn't nearly as good as what it kind of should be. But I would hand on heart put my hands up and say that the expectations of what I thought the movie, what I thought probably it'd be the typical run-of-the-mill average Predator film that would be long and forgotten. I was absolutely wrong. And again, as I said, this is definitely probably the best Predator film since the first Predator, and I would say it's probably even up there with the first Predator film as well. Only thing that's different, I would say, is that the fact that the first Predator film is such a iconic film, and then the fact that you've got Arnold Schwarzenegger, where back in the 80s he ruled the cinema when it came to the blockbuster movies of the 80s, and that's the only thing that, to me, why I probably would slightly still prefer it, because just the characterization of the first Predator film and Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, I'm not a child of the 80s, but I grew up on the 80s movies, so this to me is very, very, very close. And then I would say in some places it kind of is funny, but not in a sense, it's meant to be funny. If you're out there kind of looking for gore, you will get that in this movie. There is a high body count in this movie, so you'll get that. There are a few things where some of the deaths where you actually kind of see it happen, but then you don't see it kind of happen. And also the movie's 1 hour 40 minutes, so it's in that perfect sweet spot where the movie's not too short, but then it's not too long either. It's just, I think the length of the movie is just about right, so it actually hits that sweet spot. So you won't feel bored, or you won't feel it's too short, and you won't feel like it's too long. It's just the right amount of balance. Also, I think I don't know if it's me, but maybe I'm wrong. There hasn't been a lot of, maybe I've been missing out on it, but to me there didn't seem to be a lot of marketing push for this movie, whereas the movies after Predator 1, there were my DualShock falls disconnected, but that doesn't matter anyway. They tend to have a big marketing push in trying to advertise and trying to sell the actual movie. This movie, to me, it seems to be they've kept it very low key, and with keeping the movie low key and then actually calling the film Prey, for me, it actually works in the movie's favour. Now, we know that the movies are called Predator because obviously the actual Predator is actually on the hunt. There are, again, the one who's put too many spoilers, there are some elements where you do see some kind of predatory things on the hunt, but it's not, all I can say, it's not necessarily the Predator, so to speak, but you will see what I mean when you actually watch the actual movie, when you see these Predator type things on the hunt. And I thought that was kind of quite clever. I would say the camera work was actually clever. There are some emotional parts of the actual movie. I won't say what and I won't say why, but they are connected to the main character. There is one of my favorite characters in the actual movie is that the lead character has a dog who I would love to have a dog like that is so highly trained and actually listens, and well, again, I can't spoil that too much either. Now, it would be I don't know what the plans are, if there are plans to do a sequel to this actual movie, but if there is, I mean, I would quite happily would watch, or would like to see a sequel if they decide to do one. Also, what I do like is, I think, to where the time frame where they've set it with the Native Americans, I don't know if it's the 19th century. I would assume it kind of is, but I think when I first kind of saw the first part of the movie, and obviously the Predator's got its fancy weapons, and obviously the Comanche Indians, American Indians, have got their weapons, and then obviously you would naturally assume that there will be no match for the actual Predator. And all I say is that you'll be quite surprised in kind of what happens. But as I said, what I do like about the movie is the sense of keeping it small scale, and then just keeping it basic, and then just stripping away all of the fancy Hollywood bravado that they put into the movies, where it's all explosions and everything is such a huge kind of a scale. And I think it works in terms of the Predator hunting the Native Americans, and the Native Americans hunting the Predators. I think it works well in a sense of that the Native commercial American Indians, I don't want to sit there and kind of stamp on their history, but in a sense that their culture, in the sense of them hunting, I think actually works well with the philosophy, with the ideology and the philosophy of what the predator does, where the predator goes out on the hunt to find its prey, and then obviously finds it a challenge to hunt other animals, and I think that works well with the traditions of the native Comanche American Indians. So I think the whole the whole time in which they've set it in, and obviously using the Comanches, the way the whole movie works, it actually works. It services the story. So again, great acting, great story, and then by the end of it, when you get to the movie, you actually feel satisfied. I mean, after watching this, I mean, I really, in some ways, wish it could have been put on the big cinema, because being able to see it on the big screen with the on the cinema screen with the bit with all the sound, I think would have been fantastic, and I think this would have done very well on the big screen. But then at the same time, I think keeping it low key, putting it on a streaming service, so then it's a Hulu original exclusive movie. I think that also works well in its favour, and obviously because the word of mouth travels across social media with people liking the actual movie. Hopefully, this will influence people who either are fans of the Predator franchise, or people who, you know, were disillusioned with the previous Predator films not being very well, because we've seen some franchises just crash and burn, like Star Wars, the newer Star Wars films seem to have, or Terminator, where they don't seem to be able to get that right, the feel of the first two movies. And I think this is actually, for me, this is a perfect example of how you do it right. So maybe keeping it low key, obviously a complete name change and not calling it Predator. I think that actually helps. Although, as I said, if you look at the italics of the way it says prey, you can clearly tell that it's the same italics that they've used on the Predator titles or on all the movies. But I don't like giving movies scores, because obviously that can change over time. But I would say, if you've never seen a Predator film before, or if you have and you've been burned by the other Predator films, or maybe you're on the fence, I would say that, and then you loved the first Predator film with Arnold Schwarzenegger, I would say that you're going to absolutely love this movie. I mean, I absolutely love this movie. If it does come out on a physical format at some point, I think I will definitely pick up this actual movie. But yeah, I would definitely say I highly recommend watching this movie, especially if you've got Hulu or you've got Disney Plus. I mean, it's already there. I mean, if you already subscribe to these services, so I would say definitely check it out, and you'll be really surprised of how good this movie is. I'd say it's very good. It's probably definitely up there. It's probably going to be up there in my films of the year. So check it out wherever you can, or wherever you are in the world. Anyway, I hope people love this review. It was off the cuff. I mean, it wasn't scripted or anything. I just decided to sit there and do the video, do a review on just after watching the movie, so I know that everything was fresh in my mind on what I wanted to say. Again, I don't want to do any review scores, or I don't want to do any spoilers, because I don't want to spoil it for anybody out there. I want people coming into the movie fresh and watching the actual movie. So yeah, definitely check it out. Anyway, feel free to like and to share this video when it's uploaded, because that helps people find me on YouTube, because I'm also being a small YouTuber. Again, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, feel free to subscribe to my channel. I'm hoping to do more movies and reviews in the near future. I'm not going to probably be able to do the latest ones that come out. Maybe I might do some old ones or classic ones or movies that I like. So I really do people enjoy this review, and hopefully you'll check it out and you'll enjoy it as much as I did. One final little bit tidbit on the actual movie. According to what I've read, it says that the development of the film began during the production of The Predator, which was in 2018, when producer John Davis was approached by the director and the writer with a concept that they have been developing since 2016. It says here the film's title was revealed to be the code name of the fifth installment of the franchise. Prey premiered at the San Diego Comic-Con on the 21st of July 2022 and was released by 20th Century Studios. I keep forgetting it's not called Fox because Disney bought it out now. And was released as a Hulu original film in the United States on August the 5th, 2022. But in the UK it's on Disney Plus, so again you can watch it like that. So anyway, take care, bye for now, and stay safe.